Fantasy playoff season has begun in some areas of the world, and for others, this is your last chance to get in. We know how important this week is either way, which is why we are zeroed in on making sure to provide you with the very best analysis of the most important questions you're asking yourself, including who to start and who to sit for Week 14. Game day is here as OFN Fantasy Football on the Ourlads Football Radio Network starts now. All right, I'm Greg DePalma. Welcome to another Sunday morning game day edition of OFN Fantasy Football for December 10th, 2017. First, he's the chief fantasy analyst at Ourlads.com and the co-host of the Bill Roden on Sports podcast on iTunes, Jamal Murphy. So, Jamal, how are your fantasy teams doing? What's the situation?
You're not great. I'm in one playoff, which is a big league, but didn't start off too well. I decided to go with Matt Ryan. And he stinks, and he killed me again this week. I was talking to Dan about it the other day. He told me I should have started Jameis Winston instead. But, that's revisionist history, so what can I do?
All right. Also joining us is sports producer and fantasy expert Dan Weinrich. And Dan, so how are your fantasy teams doing?
Well, I'm in 6 leagues and I made the playoffs in 5 of them, so that's
awesome.
Win in and of itself. I have 1 bye, so I have 4 games this week, and they haven't started great in the league that we're all in together. I didn't have anyone play Thursday, and my opponent had Michael Thomas, who went off to the tune of 29.3 points. So a little behind the 8 ball there. Pretty much evenly matched in the rest of them, but definitely have some who should I start questions for you guys, and I need you to be at your smartest, please.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. Let's just go ahead and start. Tell me, what do you got for us, Dan?
Oh, all right. Well, a perfect segue where Jawal was just mentioning Jameis Winston, and I have to decide between Jameis Winston hosting the Lions and Derek Carr at KC.
Jameis Winston against the Lions or Derek Carr against KC? Wow. How did Winston look? Did you get an opportunity to see him yourself last week? What'd you think about it?
I mean, he did what he normally did. He threw the ball what he normally does, at least prior to his shoulder injury. He threw the ball 30 times. 2 touchdowns, 270 yards, 22 points altogether. Except for 3 games this season, 2 of which he was presumably injured. He's good. He'll get you those 20 to 25 points. As opposed to Derek Carr, who's really been a bust this year, and he only has, after starting with week 3. This guy's only gotten to 20 points once. Now, that happened to be when they played Kansas City at home.
Sure.
That was that enormous game where he threw the ball like 50 times and had 3 touchdowns. I don't know if we can count on that again this week, so I'm sort of leaning towards Jameis at home.
Well, I would lean towards Jameis as well. One of the things I would do, though, based on what you just said there about the Chiefs matchup is I would take a look at Carr's history with the Chiefs. I'm pretty big on that stuff. I mean, if a guy has a great history against one team, 3 or 4 games, and he's got, an average of awesome stats in every game compared to especially what he did earlier this season, I might go with him, especially with Peters out.
Well, that's a good segue for me because I think I go Jameis here strictly because of the matchup. I know the Chiefs have been horrible defensively this year, especially of late, but I do remember last year Carr going to Kansas City, and not doing anything, and just being horrible.
There you go.
I don't think they put up.
I remember that game too. That was a Thursday night game, right?
Yeah, I remember it was a primetime game. It was disgusting, and I remember being very cold. And I would assume that Kansas City is probably going to be cold today. Probably not as cold as it was that night, but I definitely like Winston's matchup much better.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
So we're going to
Greg
agree
does
with
bring,
you.
Greg, you do bring up a great point, though, that they will be missing Marcus Peters, who's suspended for the day. That does give me a little bit of a second thought, but I think I'll probably end up rolling with Jameis.
And I do like the Chiefs. Remember we talked last week about when we were going over a matchup, and I think the Minnesota-Atlanta one, and I said, look, I like Minnesota, so I would stay away from Atlanta, whatever it was. I forget what we were talking about. So that's kind of the same way. I like the Chiefs today. I think they're going to start turning things around, even with Peters out. I just don't like the Raiders at all. I think the Raiders have been lucky as hell that they've played two bad teams the last 2 weeks. Otherwise, I think they would have got their ass handed to them. So, not that the Chiefs are playing great, but it is in Kansas City, and the place can go pretty bonkers. I expect them to go bonkers today in the rivalry. They lost to them already once. So, I like the Chiefs today, and therefore, lean towards Winston, definitely. But, best of luck there. Either way, I don't think you can go wrong. I mean, it's not like Winston should have a bad day. I think you got to look at it that way, too. If Carr has a good day, but Winston should have a good day. There's no reason for him not to, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I think at home against Detroit, it's a favorable matchup. And, we got to keep in mind, I mean, I know Crabtree is back. What's the deal with Cooper, Jamal? Is Cooper playing today?
I haven't heard anything about Cooper.
Like it. It's looking like it. They're saying he's probably going to play. But there's no way he's going to be 100%, and we know how disappointing he's been for you this year, Jamal. So, I mean, would you start him?
Obviously it depends what you have, but no, I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to start him. It's not. I wouldn't be happy if I had to start Cooper. They also have Cordero Patterson. He was questionable. I think he's expected to play. They've been getting him involved more, but. I like the Winston in the matchup. Just tell him to keep his fingers out his mouth, and he should be fine.
Yeah, I mean, look.
All right, you guys want another?
Sure, go right ahead.
All right, so I'm going to name a big group of running backs, and I need you to just pick two of them for me to start, okay? Latavius Murray at Carolina, Alex Collins at Pittsburgh, Jay Ajayi at the Rams, Derrick Henry at Arizona, and C.J. Anderson versus our beloved New York Jets.
Pick two of them?
Pick two.
That's kind of tough. Nobody really stands out. Not one of them, at least. Ajayi might be a decent. I might go with Ajayi, to tell you the truth. How has Ajayi been for you? I mean, I would think that they got to run a little bit more this week and give some balance in that offense. And I would think they would rebound after their first loss in like a couple of months as well.
Right.
The problem is Ajayi hasn't had double-digit carries since arriving in Philadelphia. And I don't know if this is the week that they decide to suddenly, it will come eventually, but are they saving him for the playoffs? I don't know exactly what's going on there, but he has managed to do a little bit of scoring in spite of the very small volume. But, I'm looking at his last 4 games, and the carries are 8, 7, 5, 9.
Yeah, obviously something's going on there. I know that they have they have other running backs. They like their other backs, including Clement. You still got LeGarrette Blount in the mix, so they're trying to keep guys involved. But there must be also something that they don't really trust in Ajayi at this point for him to only get those carries. But I do like his matchup. I do think the Eagles will go more to the ground this week. I also like Collins.
Yeah.
Those are the two I would
agree.
say. C.J. Anderson is tough too because I have a quandary with him also that I'll get into later. He hadn't been doing anything, but then he had a decent game last week. Got about 15 carries, his most carries in about a month. So he's an interesting situation. Plus the Jets have been giving up a lot of rushing yards. So that's tough.
Yeah, but you said two, right?
Yeah,
2, right?
And one guy you guys haven't mentioned that I do currently have slots in as a starter because one of my starters I'm going with Alex Collins. The other is Latavius Murray. I know he has a tough matchup.
I forgot that you said Murray. Yeah, I'll go Murray. Murray and Collins.
Yeah, because he does have a tough matchup, but he hasn't had less than 15 carries in like 2 months. So
and he hasn't had less than about 70 yards in the last few games. He's been producing.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, especially because he's the goal line guy as well. And yeah, I mean, I think if you safe bet's Murray, and definitely Collins. So yeah, I mean, I'll second that. If you feel confident with Murray and Collins as your top two, go for it.
Yeah, I mean that's where I was leaning, but the one guy that was really making me think was C.J. Anderson, because he also has a tendency of really coming alive at the end of the season the last couple of years. But
yeah, but he's a gamble though, and that's a terrible team.
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know if I want to take that gamble.
No.
In a win or go home situation.
See, the other two guys that you would go on, the other reason why it's a good thing is they're playing meaningful games, and they're not exact. And even though Murray's going up against a good defense, he's done well. So, yeah.
Right. Carolina hasn't really been that good the past few weeks. They didn't look too good against the Jets, a couple weeks ago, whenever that was. So they definitely can be run
true.
on.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. Yeah. All right, Murray and Collins. That's the way we go.
All right. I can keep going.
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So I need two. I'm going to give you 4 names, and I need you to pick 2 of them, and one of them has to be a wide receiver. Okay? I need one wide receiver at least.
Okay.
Marquise Goodwin, Nelson Aguilar, Alex Collins, and Isaiah Crowell.
Wait a second. You have to pick 4 out of these.
I gave you 2 wide receivers and 2 running backs. I need 1 wide receiver position and 1 flex.
What was the last one?
What's that? The last one was Isaiah Crowell.
Oh, definitely Aguilar. And
okay.
And so it's between Crowell, Collins, and Goodwin. I wouldn't trust Goodwin, to tell you the truth. I understand the Garoppolo and him had a nice little connection, but that's a gamble. That's like a Martavis Bryant gamble. Will he give you 2 points or 15 or 20? That's a gamble. What do you think, Jamal? What do you think about Crowell or Collins as well? If you had to just go with that matchup,
I'd probably go Collins. You have Collins' stats the last couple of weeks. Because I haven't.
He's been good.
So I barely pay attention.
He's been solid. He's been like in the teens.
I think you go Collins as the flex.
Get 2 touchdowns.
And I'm a little torn. I do think the safe bet is Aguilar, for that wide receiver slot. But I do like Goodwin. I'm a little higher on him than Greg. He, like you said, he had a good game with Garoppolo, but he also had been pretty productive prior to that also. So it's not like he came out of completely nowhere. And it does look like he's the main guy that Garoppolo would look to. So
if it's between Goodwin and Aguilar, what would you do? I mean, I'm still going with Aguilar. I mean, first of all, he's playing really well, as we know, and he's going back to USC. So that's going to be big for him. Going back home in that environment, you would know that Wentz is going to want to get him the ball. I mean, he forced him the ball last week, for crying out loud, so I can imagine they'll do the same thing this week.
That's a good point.
I'll be honest. I think both of them have good matchups. That's what.
There's nothing wrong. Again, you can go with both of them. Sure.
I could.
Yeah.
But here's the trouble with benching Alex Collins. Alex Collins has a touchdown in 3 straight games and 2 in his last.
You see, again, I would go with Collins just because I feel like I know I'm going to get between 10 and 15 points, and if I didn't, I'd be very surprised. Like I said, with Goodwin, it's a risk. Now, maybe he pays off better. It's possible, but I think it's a risk.
Right.
So.
And Jamal, what's your final verdict?
I play it safe and go Aguilar at the wide receiver, Collins at the flex.
All right.
Any more?
Oh yeah, I have to switch over. You guys have me thinking so deeply. I'm just like staring at my team. But yes, I do have some more for you. So at the wide receiver position, I need to choose two of these gentlemen. Josh Gordon, Jermaine Kearse, Devontae Parker, Jeremy Maclin, and Mike Wallace. I need just two of them.
Well, I would definitely stay away from the Ravens. It would be between Gordon, Kearse, and Parker for me. And I would probably go with Gordon because I think that he's Packers secondary is terrible. Gordon, first of all, I think it's obvious looking at Gordon. That guy is going to be awesome if he stays out of trouble.
Biggest.
Yeah, and Kearse is on a roll right now, and so it would be for me, I would just stay away from the Ravens. I would go two of those three. Jamal, what would you do?
Yeah, I agree. I go Gordon, Kearse. Yeah, I'm with you. Stay away from the Ravens. Stay away from Flacco.
How's Parker been doing?
Parker, that's
Parker's
also dicey because it's
horribly.
Horribly.
With or without Jay Cutler.
Well, then that's easy then. Then go with Gordon and Kearse.
Yeah, that's the way I'm leaning.
Okay.
It's the only guy there that you got. I hear what you're saying about Baltimore, but I will say, and I am leaning towards Kearse and Gordon as well. But Mike Wallace has been turning it up as of late. He had, like 17 points last week, eight targets, 5 receptions, 116 yards. He had 11 targets the week before that. So, he has been coming on. But Jermaine Kearse has back-to-back 100-yard games. So
yeah,
and Josh Gordon obviously.
Yeah, look, I don't think anybody out there that if they had if it's between Wallace and Maclin, it's a no-brainer. Maclin shouldn't even be in the discussion. So yeah, I mean, if somebody out there is listening and they got Wallace, I wouldn't be worried about it. I'd be okay. That's okay. I think I can live with that. I might be able to get 10 points out of him this week at the very least. But I think the other guys have much higher value.
All right, let me give you guys a running back quandary I got here. Jamal Williams for the Pack, who's playing at Cleveland, or Jordan Howard at Cincinnati?
Howard for me.
I like Jamal Williams.
See, the only thing with Jamal Williams is that now that Jones got back into action, I think he's going to start taking more reps away from him.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the very most he'd split them. I watched some of that game last week, and Williams still got plenty of carries and did well with those carries.
Oh, he got all the carries. Legit. Yeah,
but then they went to Jones, who had a touchdown.
Well, that was his only carry of the game.
Right.
That was just because he needed a break.
So that just shows you that they're very comfortable with Williams.
Well, but yeah, but again, I think that was an injury thing. I don't know. I mean, you saw what Jones did. I mean, before the injury.
And Williams will look good, too.
They're both good, yeah. So I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think Jones is going to out-rep him. I just think that he will take carries away from him.
Yeah, he'll take. I think he'll get more than one carry for sure.
Yeah, I think so.
But I think at most it'll be a split, and probably Williams will have more. But I think they'll both be productive.
The problem is Jordan Howard has only been getting volume as if he was in a timeshare. I mean, his last 4 weeks were 15, 7, and 13. He's not.
Who's taking away his carries?
I just think they're throwing the ball more because Tariq Cohen isn't taking away that many carries, but they're just not really going with the run. And
how about the matchup? The matchup then favors Williams as far as who they're playing, right?
Well, certainly the Bengals are a better team, but just based on how they've done against the run, the Browns are actually much tougher than the Bengals.
Okay, so and keep in mind, too, Bengals are extremely banged up. I mean, Burfict is out. They got, I think, 2 or 3 starters in the secondary out. They got a lot of guys out on defense. So if you're saying that the run defense favors the Browns already, then keep that in mind.
That's fair. That's fair.
So it's a tough one.
I got some news just came down the wire that affects one of my teams. It's Sterling Shepard. Looks like he's likely out.
Yeah. I
had him slotted in at a flex position if he played, and now it comes down to pretty shaky alternatives. I got Cordell Patterson I could put in there. I got Bilal Powell. I got Forte, and I got Mike Wallace. What would you do?
I wouldn't do Patterson. because it looks like Cooper's coming back a little bit. So Powell, Forte, I'd probably go Forte. They just don't. I don't know what it is. They just don't. They don't give Powell enough opportunities when Forte's in there. I wish they would.
Forte has been completely, bust or completely,
Yeah.
or just had a great game.
Boom or bust.
Yeah. Now
Boomer
Wallace,
bust. He's had 25 points in week 9, then he had 0 the next 2, or 0 then 2 points, and then last week he had 18 points again.
Yeah, so it's a matter of him being healthy and kind of. I mean, I'd probably go with Wallace in this one to tell you the truth, because this goes back to what we were just saying before. I think you can be comfortable with Wallace getting about 10 points minimum. And I don't know. Like you said, you go Powell and Forte, you could get 2 points, and it wouldn't be a shock.
Right.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think I like Mike Wallace of all your options.
Yeah, and it looks like even though, of course, Crabtree is back from a suspension, we just talked about Carr. You don't know if he hasn't had a good year anyway. So even though Patterson has done a pretty good job with Cooper out there, he's going to be relegated to nothing again, which still doesn't make any sense to all of us all season. But that's why the Raiders are the Raiders this season. I'm surprised they didn't fire their offensive coordinator, to tell you the truth, not just their defensive coordinator.
Yeah, they have all kind of problems out there.
All right. Let's see. By the way, injuries. Keep in mind that Taylor looks like he's not playing. Peterman will start for Buffalo. Not that we certainly hope nobody would have to start Taylor this week. Benjamin may be a game time decision in that one. It looks like Olsen and Funchess are playing for Carolina.
Olsen's in?
Yeah, looks like Olsen's in and Funchess. Now, no way, guys, and you would agree with me, no way, especially if you had a decent number 2, you would start Matthew Stafford, even if he plays, right? You wouldn't trust that, would you?
I actually had a question about that in a league where the choices are Goff, Cam Newton, and Stafford. Goff is the clear choice, I think, or at least it was during the week. But Stafford was also questionable most of the week. The thing is, he's playing Tampa Bay, who's one of the worst defenses in the league, and obviously he's capable of putting up big numbers.
Goff and Wentz are going to go off today
because of the the rivalry, the matchup.
It's going to be a great. I have a feeling you're going to see a great game today. You're going to see both of those two guys being on top of their game, and he's having a great year anyway.
Right.
So to me, Goff, because you can't trust Stafford. You don't know if he goes out there and he'll get hurt in like 5 minutes.
Right, and he hasn't played great the last 2 weeks. He's averaged about 17 points the last 2 weeks against good defenses, whereas Goff has been consistently in the 20s. So
yeah,
you're probably right.
And he's got the good weather. He's out in California. No cold weather situation for the quarterback.
Right.
This week. What do you think?
I mean,
Dan?
I will say the matchup does favor Stafford.
Sure.
Because he's playing a terrible defense, obviously, where Goff is playing a tough one, but it's definitely hard to bench Goff the way he's been scoring as of late.
Yeah, again, I don't think you could. It's like I think we were just talking about before. I don't think you can't lose by taking Goff. I mean, he should play well.
Right, and the offense in general is gonna lend itself to him at least putting points on the board. Even if he didn't play great, McVay's gonna find ways for them to get the ball in the end zone. So he's pretty much, I think, a guarantee to have a decent game.
And Cam Newton, forget it, against Minnesota, especially the way he's been playing the last couple of games. I mean, it's like when they went to the bye, he came back like he did in the beginning of the season. It's like he messed up his mechanics or whatever, his chemistry with the team. Maybe he'll get back into it soon, but he lost whatever he had after the break. By the way, not only is Shepard looking like he's out, but Darkwa looks like he may play.
I think they're saying he's likely to play.
Okay. Now Eli returns. So here's the problem with that is that I think there are some people who are thinking, oh, Eli's going to come back and it's going to be a great story, and the Cowboys are going to beat the Cowboys and knock them out of their playoffs, and Eli's going to show everybody. Problem is who's he going to show everybody against, especially with Shepard out? He still has nobody to throw the ball to.
Right. He still can't move. He's still closes his eyes and throws deep. You know, he has the same issues. I'm sure he'll put in a good effort just for pride's sake.
You would think, yeah.
I would expect him to have one of his better games, but that's not saying much.
I mean, Ingram might be a good play this week, right? To tight end.
Yeah, that's a good play. I think he's always a good play.
Yeah, well, he went off a couple of weeks. I had him all season, and he had those 2 really bad weeks.
Right.
And I decided, you know what, I'm going to pick up Hunter Henry, and I'm going to drop Ingram because I can't keep taking the chance on this, especially the week that Geno came back. But then he had a good game. Right. And so maybe he'll be fine again. So, yeah, you can definitely – and by the way, keep in mind, it's not only is Stafford banged up, but Ricky Wagner's out, his best tackle, and T.J. Lang is iffy to start at guard. And we have no idea if Swanson, the center's playing, and you have no idea if Abdul is playing. That is a lot of offensive firepower for the Lions.
Yes, that sounds like a problem.
Mm-hmm. So those are some of the injuries there for that team. With Washington, you still don't know about their offensive line guys. You would expect they'll play. They always guts it out. If anybody starts or even thinks of – I mean, I don't even know at this point why anybody would ever take a chance on Jordan Reed again. I mean, he's going to have to play like 8 straight weeks next season, the beginning of the season, before anybody should take a chance on him. Hearns remains out. It looks like Zertz will be a game-time decision, and it looks like Robert Woods is not going to be able to make it back this week for the Rams. And Mixon, of course, is out. So would you start Bernard, Dan? Giovanni Bernard?
Yeah, I think Gio is a great start this week. I would start him with confidence.
Okay.
Probably.
Yeah, I agree. I've always liked his talent. And when he gets the chance, when he gets touches, he usually produces, and he's going to get touches today. So I think that's a nice sleeper start, and I see people around the fantasy world doing that.
Okay. Damian Williams is out again. So would you start Drake? Drake had a good game last week, right?
Yeah. I think Drake is close to a must start unless you have a monster, situation in running back. And he went off without Williams there, went off for 120 yards last week. He's always been in the mix regardless. I have a situation where in my playoff league where I'm going with Drake and P. Ryan, and I have Latavius Murray on the bench. Either you guys have a problem with that?
P. Ryan against the Chargers or Murray? That's a tough one.
I'd probably go P. Ryan, I guess.
How the Chargers been doing against the run? I mean, I know their defense has been doing pretty decent. How are they doing against the run?
Not great against the run. I mean, they've given up big games to running backs, so it's looked at as a good matchup for P. Ryan. He didn't play well last week in that blowout to Dallas. That's the only thing. But before that, he had 200-yard games in a row. So hopefully he gets back to that. But you never know.
You also got the offensive line problems for the Redskins. Still don't know about that. I think that's a tough one.
The one thing
what about Murray or Drake?
Drake, definitely.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that because he's going to be on his own. I mean, Patriots are a different team, of course, than the way Denver's playing, but that makes sense. Miami did move the ball against the Patriots a few weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
Were you saying something, Dan?
No, I would definitely go with Drake there.
Okay.
I think, I like Murray a lot, but he's got a very tough matchup.
Yeah, he does.
And,
what's the status?
Think that Drake could get work against Miami, whether they're competitive, if they're behind, he could be catching balls. So I think he's definitely going to give you numbers either way.
What about Alfred Morris?
Alfred Morris
He's
has
still in the
a
league?
good matchup.
Hey, he had a big week last week.
I'm just joking.
Yeah, what's his name? That guy that you trashed last week actually had his first good game.
Who was that?
Kerwin Williams.
I remember that. I saw the stats. I was like, did we just kill him?
I know.
Yeah,
AP's out again.
You know what? If I had the chance, I would start him this week
against Tennessee.
Yeah,
I got another running. This is like another bad situation to be in, running back situation. But it's Peyton Barber, Gore, or C.J. Anderson. Ooh. And I think I have to pick 2 of those.
Ooh. Peyton Peyton Barber, well, he had a good game, so you would think that he'll get a lot of carries against Detroit. So he probably, since he's the hot hand in that group, you might as well go with him. It's not a great group. And how's Gord been doing?
I mean, he's just 50 to 60 yards every game.
Is he giving you 10 points?
Completely touchdown dependent. So if he has a touchdown, he'll get in the teens. If not, he's going to just get you that 5-6 points.
And who's the other guy?
C.J. Anderson, who we talked about earlier.
I might go Anderson maybe in that one.
Over Gore.
Yeah. What do you think, Dan?
I'd probably go C.J. Anderson, but I will say Gore is the lowest floor of the group because, Peyton Barber or C.J. Anderson could, based on the way their seasons have gone, it wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility that they have zero involvement. Suddenly Devontae Booker or Doug Martin is getting the majority of carries.
Or even Charles.
But Frank Gore is definitely going to get his 15 carries. So he's got a higher floor, but I think C.J. Anderson has the highest ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with all that. So, not a good...
not good for your playoff prospect.
No, those three. No, not at all. Yeah, I actually got the bye this week in our league. So who are you going up against, Dan? What do you got going on in our league?
Well, our league, as I mentioned earlier in the pod, I'm in trouble because the only player that's gone for either team so far is Mike
one
Thomas.
team, one guy, one player.
Yeah, one player, 30 points.
You can get back from that.
I hope you're right.
You can do that.
That is true.
You just got
we're all quick to overreact. So it all depends what the rest of the team does, of course.
Have a pep talk with your team before they go out there today.
Right.
And then who are you playing?
I'm playing a guy named Yomi, whose his team name is just the symbol for a period.
Okay, I'm not sure what that's about, but
a man of few words, I suppose.
All right.
He does his talking on the field.
By the way, is this a winner take all league?
No, I believe there's at least a second place prize. Jamal, did your wife win this league last year?
No, she won. She won my league last year, not this one. But
so usually,
my wife is actually in this one, so I've been consulting her about her lineup. She plays somebody today.
Yeah, she does. Yeah, I see that. Okay. Now, do I have to play the winner of that matchup? Is that how that works? Looks like it. I mean, based on the standings, I mean, I guess that's the way it is. It looks like because they got it closer to my team, so I don't know if that's the case though. But
yeah, I think that's the case. But what an advantage to catch one of those first round buys. I mean, to have to win 2 games instead of 3 games is just...
That's true.
It's great. If you can get it, so, the regular season matters. Stack those W's if you can.
Yeah, no question about it.
Yeah, that's true. And now, Kamara, what's the status on him? Does he think he'll be back next week for the Saints?
Well, we'll see how that goes. The concussion protocol. He'll be involved in that, and we'll see. I don't think he has any kind of history of concussion, so that's a good sign. If he did, you're probably looking at 2 weeks.
Okay. By the way, I'm going to see how Mike Davis does this week because I have him in this league, and he did have a good game. He's looked good. Look, he was a good college running back. He's just always had to deal with injuries, and we know how desperately Seattle needs a running back. So, and Lynch is also somebody I need to keep an eye on this week because he is starting to, he's got some momentum with the back-to-back 20-point games in our league. So he's got the Chief matchup today. Next week he's got the Cowboy matchup. So Lynch is somebody else, and I have P. Ryan as well. So that'll be a decision for next week with all those running backs. All right. So, anything else, guys? Anything else we missed? We're all good?
I think we covered the important stuff.
All right. Excellent. So, best of luck then on in all your playoff glory, Dan. You've got those 5 games.
Yeah, 5 playoffs. I have 1 bye. So
1 bye.
4 games.
4 games.
Today. I'll tell you what. If I go 3-1, I'll be very happy.
As you should.
Absolutely. It's a numbers game. John, and you have, what do you have, Jamal? 1, you said?
Yeah, I have one. Didn't start off, like I said, didn't start off well because of good old Matt Ryan. So I need the rest of my team to pick it up.
All right. Best of luck, guys. My playoffs don't begin until the next week in my other league. And of course, I've got to bye this week in our league. So we'll talk more about our playoffs and, of course, all of the injury updates, matchups, and more as we wrap up the regular season for sure in fantasy football. And we'll do that next Sunday morning right here on the Ourlads Football Radio Network. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at PrimeSN. And we'll see you again for more coverage, including we get you ready for the College Football Bowl season next week. And, of course, our NFL preview show, which is on demand right now from Thursday with Tony Mejia. And we'll be on again this Thursday and every Thursday. And then, of course, we'll cover the playoffs. So thanks again for tuning in to Ourlads fantasy football coverage. For Jamal Murphy, for Dan Wyrick, I'm Greg DePalma. We'll see you next time.